Hello everyone and welcome to Callsign Charlie Models. We are getting started on this beast of the kit, the PBY Catalina in 1/32 scale. And I think to start off with, like I said in the inbox review, some of the panel lines and rivets just are not deep enough, especially around this top part right here around the multiple curves. Lost a little bit of detail in that area. So I'm going to go in, I have my tools ready, and we are going to start rescribing and, well, not rescribing, but just increasing the depth of all the rivets and everything. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to get zoomed in for you. You're not going to be able to see much of this detail on camera, but as you can see here, there is a decent amount of detail, and you can see the rivet detail there. I just want to go in, and what I have is I have a little pin vise with a needle in it. I'm just going to poke all the little rivets in there just a little bit, just to make them a little bit deeper. Then after that, I have my panel liner that I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to kind of carve these. These up here are not too bad, and along the fuselage are not bad, but right up here, that's where it really starts to get shallow, especially in the deep part of this this curve right here. So I definitely want to go over that area. The belly, I'm not really too worried about it because it's going to be in the diorama, it's going to be underwater, so you're not going to be able to see any of this, but there is some very nice rivet detail on there. So I'm not worried about this part right here, but up in here is another area that I'm going to have to concentrate on right in here. And then of course on the vertical stabilizer, again, some lost rivet detail and panel line detail. I just want to get cleaned up on that. So I'm just going to start by the nose and work my way back, and then we will go from there. So I got my music on in my headset, so we can get rocking and rolling. So my question is, what do you guys do when you're at the bench? Do you listen to music? Do you watch TV? Or do you just model in pure silence? Which way do you prefer? Alright, so all the panel lines and rivets up to this point seem okay. So what I'm really going to concentrate is right on up in here to get this area all done. Even though you're really not going to be able to see much of it because it's going to be under the wing and in between the engines and everything, but still I want to take care of all that. Make sure that there's no lost detail on there. Okay, you can see some of the re-riveting I did on here. Maybe. I doubt it will show up on the camera, but I did do the re-riveting in here. It is showing up a little bit better. I just need to do the horizontals, and the tool I was using for this is a Rosie Riveter 0.75 millimeter riveter. This is for 1/48 and 1/32 scale. As you can see, it's nice, and definitely the riveter of my choice. I also have these riveters right here, the ultimate riveter for plastic. I got a single row of 1 millimeter, a double row of 0.75 millimeter right here, and I have one more. I thought I had one more out, but so these are definitely good, especially this one. You can get the double rivets in a row. It's a double spinner, if you can see that right there. So this definitely helps with the process, especially if there's a lot of rivets to do. It speeds up the whole process. So looking at the rest of the detail on here, I think I got the parts I needed cleaned up, and it should be, the detail on here should be deep enough for some panel wash, even though I'm not going to be using much of it because this is going to be black cat, so I'm not going to be using a lot of panel and rivet or panel liner to show off all the panel lines. So this should be good on this one. And checking the other fuselage. So the other fuselage, this part looks a lot better than the other one did, and the same with the tail section as well. It does look a lot better on this side. Then going on to the main wings, again the rivet detail and on everything on here does seem deep enough. I am going to need to take care of this gouge right in here. Then also this part, there's a mold seam right in here that I'm going to have to take care of on the front and the back. But that is at a later time. So up next, what we're going to be doing is I'm going to start on all the framing on the inside of here, get all the framing done, get that interior side painted, and then so I don't have to worry about going back in, because there's going to be a lot of stuff blocking off a lot of areas. So I want to get that framing done, and I want to get it all painted up and weathered on the walls at least, and then we can start going section by section and get that done that way. So I think that's the way that I'm going to do this build, and then we're going to get the whole fuselage done, get it all buttoned up, and then we'll start with the wings and get that done with the engines and everything, and then we can start to, so that's my my build progress plan for this build. We're going to just keep on going. This framing system, as you can see, there's a lot of framing to put into this, and then we have all of these pieces right in here to add on to it, plus some more, I think. So it's going to be a lot of work because we also have to sand them off of these wafers as well. So I'm going to get everything set up and I will be right back. Okay, so looking back through the instructions and looking at the parts and everything, the parts I actually have to cut down the size. So looking at the instructions, of course, I'm going to skip the clear parts going in there for now until everything's painted up, so I don't have to worry about masking that stuff. But moving forward, these bulkheads need to be taken care of beforehand, so that way I have the spacing done, so when I'm cutting out those framings, I can have a measurement to go off of on that. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to start off with sanding down these bulkheads right in here. So we got the first 4 right here, and these are going to go back to back like so on that, and then the same thing with this one as well, getting that one lined up right in there. So first off, what I got to do is I got to sand off these wafers, and I'm going to start off by cutting off the excess around here, and then after that's done, I got this 80 grit sandpaper. I'm not really worried about losing any detail on this back side because it's going to be glued up against another side, so I can just get off as much of this as possible. But first, what I need to do is I need to trim around here with my hobby knife, which is, I don't know where I put it. Oh, it was right in front of my face the entire time. So I'm just going to come across here, and I'm just going to run it, squirt across like so. Get you zoomed in a little bit here. This comes off pretty quickly and easily. I just need to run it through. And I'm not worried about it being perfect across the edges right here because I'm just going to sand it down to where it, so that first piece popped off. Alright, and then we come across here on the bottom. Okay, that first piece, and I'm leaving the doorways. I'm leaving the doorways in because that's going to be my gauge to when I have it sanded down enough for the fit. So that's why I'm leaving those on. So move on to the next one. Okay, so this first one's done. Just gonna glue in together like so. I'm gonna have to do some cleanup on the edges after I'm done sanding and get it just to make sure it's got the perfect fit, so that way when it fits into the fuselage it fits in just right. So got that side, that one done. Alright, so the first bulkhead is sanded down. Just have a little bit of cleanup to do on the outer edge right here. And maybe bring it down just... oh, no, this one's good. Alright, so we just need to do some trim up along the edges right here. And that will be ready for glue. And then we start off with the next set. Alright, so now these parts are ready to go together. Definitely want to do a test before I get them together because once these are on, it's going to be, because you have to use super glue. Main thing is getting this rounded part ready together, made it upright, and also this point right down here, but also the hatch. Alright, here goes nothing. First part's going together on the PBY Catalina. Alright, so first piece is together. Definitely need to do some cleanup along the edges here just to get them leveled out. Alright, so that piece is glued together. Let's test it in the fuselage. Alright, so I think this piece goes right here, or it's definitely not there. Let's see, where are we having issues with this? That side is almost perfect. Checking out the other side. Okay, then test it fitting this guy. Alright, this piece is done. We just have a little bit of cleanup to go. Alright, so the first two pieces are done. Now we move on to the next couple of bulkheads. Alright, finishing up for day one of the PBY Catalina. Got a few of the bulkheads done, and the bulkheads took a little bit of work to do, getting them to match up perfectly along the edges here, and then getting them super glued in together. You have very little time to work with to get them lined up, so there are some little mulligans to take care of, like right in here. Definitely going to need to take care of that, but we're moving along. This is definitely going to be a very, very long build, one that I'm probably not going to get done in a month, I would think, because just these parts right here took me about 2.5 to 3 hours to get done with those. So moving on, tomorrow what I'll be doing, or 1 second for you guys, will be working on a few more bulkheads and getting some of the watertight doors done, and then keeping on. So I'll see you in 1 second when I start working on the other bulkheads. Alright, we're back, and we got yesterday we got done with a few of the bulkheads right in here, so a total of 4 bulkheads. Now we have one more bulkhead to do, and then also we're going to get done with some of these watertight doors. So we got 4 watertight doors to do right now after we get done with this bulkhead right here, which is right here. So I'm going to have to cut this off and then sand it down. And then we got these watertight doors right in here. We got 2 wafers of those to go through, and then the dogs for these are right here as well. So we're gonna have to get all that cut off. So I'm gonna go ahead, get these trimmed out. I've shown you how I do it in the earlier in this video. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that taken care of, and then when this bulkhead is done, and the watertight doors are done, I'll come up and I'll show you how everything's looking. So I'll see you in a second. Alright, so a little update. Got the landing gear bay, I guess it would be called, in the one of the bulkheads into the fuselage of the Catalina, and the fit was okay. It took some adjustment to get done, and now I'm working on the framing. Starting out, luckily it starts off in an area that you're not going to be able to really see, so you can get your practice on in an area that is not visible by any way, shape, or form on this kit. So with all the framing that you do, it does just come in these long strips right here, and then you have to measure and cut down to the area that it's going to go, and then just trim off all the, or sand off the backing. As I got it as thin as possible, so it is, I mean, less than paper thin, and then I'm just cutting off along the edges here, so that way I have something to go off of. So I just got some of the framing done on here, and then all I'm going to do is I come in here, I find the edge to it on the wafer, and then I'm going to take my hobby knife along the edge, cut along there, getting that done. And then after that part is off, I'm going to take that off, and then I'm going to take a sanding stick just to kind of take any extra off that I missed maybe with the knife, trying to get it as square as possible on here. And then that side's done, so now I come off on the other side, which is a vertical side, so it's a lot easier to line up with the knife, and just run my knife across the edge, kind of keeping my finger in there just to keep the piece from bending too much and messing up the cut. I'm very lightly running my knife across this, barely putting any pressure on the knife, pretty much letting the weight of the knife do the work. And that is how thin I have it sanded down to take care of. So after that is done, don't really need to do much cleanup on that side. I know the bolt side is going down right here, so I'll grab my tweezers right here, and then I'm just going to run it through some super glue, right like so, kind of dap off the excess. And then it does have some nice alignment lines to go off of right there. Then you just place it and let it sit for a minute while it dries, and then I'm gonna just press down on some other areas. Like I said, it's nice that you're getting your start on an area that you're not going to be able to see at all, so you can work out any kinks or anything like that on here before you get into the visible areas, like so. And then after that's all done, you just rinse and repeat. And this section has 15 frames to go on, and after that I have to repeat for the other side of the fuselage, and then I'm going to work on the actual vertical side of the fuselage before I start getting in to the rest of it. And just as see, this is the piece that goes in here, so it just slides in right like so, right up against those. I'm gonna have to trim them down, kind of give that flush look on there. But again, a nice, as you see right in there, that's how that's gonna fit in there. So it's gonna look really nice when it's all done and painted and everything. But this area, like I said, you're not gonna be able to see, and that's nice because this is the first round of framing, so getting my practice in before I'm moving into areas like up around the gunners area, where you're definitely going to be able to see all of that. And even through here, you're going to be able to see some of it through the windows, and even if you get into a right angle of looking through, you're going to be able to see down into here and back into here. So that's really nice. And then again through the window right here, you might be able to see a little bit through the engineer's window, but really that's more for the engineer section, which there is a lot of framing to go in up here as well. So just this slow process getting everything done, but it's going to be uber detailed when it is all said and done. So I'm going to continue on getting this done, and we'll just keep on trucking on this. It's going to be a long, tedious task, but the work is going to be worth it in the long run. So I'll be back in 1 second. Alright, I'm back with an update on the Catalina, and I've got the framing done on the port side of the fuselage for this one section right here. Now, guess how long this took me? About 2.5 hours. All the framing comes in little wafer sheets like this. I've actually cut this one down, but you have to measure and cut each frame individually. Now, are they perfect? No, but you're not going to be able to see any of this when it's all done, because you're going to have a bunch of stuff that's on top of it and everything, and plus the windows that you're going to be able to see through, not really visible. Now, but I am going to need to do some trimming work along here, just to make sure that the bulkhead, the main bulkhead, fits well. But I'm waiting to do that until I have the other side done and I can do a test fit with the bulkhead in it. But yeah, so all of this is done. The main landing gear well, from what it looks like on the outside, looks very, very nice. But with that being said, I am going to be sticking the wheel in there with this piece that goes on top of it. So you're not going to be able to see any of this part right in here. But on the flip side, the framing is going down pretty well. I did find out a trick. I figured out a trick to kind of speed up the process, and I just sprayed the whole thing with some accelerator, and then I hit each frame with the super glue, and then as soon as I touch the frame to the fuselage, it's dry. Good and bad about that is it dries immediately in place. There's no worries about it shifting around. Bad thing about it is if you're a little bit off on it, you are SOL. So you just have to be very careful and take my time on getting each one placed. And there are some issues with the bottom ones, but again, not really too worried about those. But yeah, so definitely a learning experience, and I still have this part of the fuselage to do with it, and then this half to do of the framing as well, along with the bottoms, and then the entire fuselage minus the floor right here, which I got done yesterday. So I'm going to get off of here. I'm going to work on the other fuselage half, getting to the same point of this right here. And then after that, we have some framing to add in, some big frames to add in that's really going to help with that. And then we have to go back in and add the rest of the little framing in there, and then that will be it for the framing, and then we move on with the rest of the fuselage parts before we start paint. So that's where we're standing on the Catalina right now. I'm hoping to have the other fuselage half to at least this point before the video update tomorrow. So I'll see you in a little bit when I have the other side of this caught up. Alright, so let's try this again. I thought I was recording the first time. When I went to upload the video, there's nothing to upload. So I've finished this section, this midsection of framing on both sides of the fuselage, and this has taken me quite a while to do. But moving on to the next fuselage half, it did go a little bit faster because I was able to figure out how things went on, and figured out some tricks a little bit faster to get it done, like spraying your zip kicker on the entire section and then gluing on each frame, so that way it didn't shift around after you put it on while the super glue was drying. So started doing that, and it did speed up the process on that. So that part is done. Now we get to go add in the rest of the framing. The nice part about doing it here first is this is not going to really be a visible piece. You might be able to see a little bit of it, but not much. So it's nice to be able to get the practice done on these pieces right here and home everything in before you start moving on to the more visible areas of the fuselage. But so this is done. Up next, like I said, we got the rest of the framing. We got some more larger framing to go on, like these framings to go on all through here. And then after those are added in, we're going to go back in with the little framing and add all the extra support in there as well. So that's going to be a long and tedious thing. I'm really hoping to have all that done by next week's video, so that way I can start getting the paint done on this portion of the fuselage right here. Also this week we got done with a few of the bulkheads to go on to the kit. As you can see right here, all these are done, and also all the watertight doors are done too. There's a total of 4 of them in here. So got those done. Getting these added in after I get paint done, and I'm going to also go through the instructions. I'm going to add all the extra little parts that go onto the bulkheads and decals and everything on that. Get that all done before I actually glue them into the fuselage, because I think that's going to make everything a lot easier. And also what I have to do is I need to go through and re-sand and just make sure that the fit is right, because on here the fit's okay on this portion. Definitely going to go through and trim some of these framings down just to make sure I have a really good fit on here. But if I squeeze it in right, it does fit pretty decently. And then again with this bulkhead back here, again, just gonna need to go in and do some fine tuning on the sanding, so that way we get a good mate between the fuselage and that piece. And then this piece goes up by the front cockpit, and you can see right here, fits pretty well right there, if I can put you on camera. So that one fits pretty well. This is going to be the back bulkhead for our, get that going the right way, the back bulkhead for our nose landing gear, and also our cockpit section right in there. So as you can see, that's done. And then we have this very back piece right here that goes somewhere, I think back in here, and that one fits pretty well already. But again, I want to go in and I want to do some touch-ups on sanding just to make sure everything fits perfectly on that. But before I even get to that step, I need to go through and finish framing the rest of this fuselage. And as you can see, with all the little lines and everything, that's all the framing that goes into this kit. So when it's all said and done, this is going to look absolutely amazing with the detail, and doing some chipping and all that with the framing, and throwing some dust and sand and such. It's really going to look good, but it's going to take a lot of work. So I'm hoping, like I said, next week to have the framing done on the fuselage halves. But so that being said, I hope you enjoyed this portion of the build for the first part of the build. Looking forward to seeing y'all again next week. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. Hit that bell button for notifications of when I post future content like part 2 of this. And then also, have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.